Hearthstone. This is actually going to be the first of two Hearthstone videos today. The second one's going to be coming a little bit later. Yeah, I know, I spoil you guys, but the reason why is this one's going to actually just be a kind of a chat about Hearthstone, in particular deck building and the different classes within Hearthstone. So this is kind of like an extension of the beginner's guide, and to kind of, I guess, maybe help people who are starting out Hearthstone to understand the value of certain cards and also the deck archetypes that you have within the game. The second Hearthstone video will just be some ranked play on my European account. Now this is actually my European account as well. So, first of all, I want to talk about building a deck within Hearthstone. There are a lot of great websites you can go to which have really good decks on them, which players submit to them. I'll leave some links in the description of websites I like, and you can always feel free to go there and get some inspiration. But one of the joys, I think personally, of Hearthstone is to build a deck that you have done so yourself. And a lot of people tend not to bother doing that because I guess they don't get the same amount of wins as they do with and what we call a net deck, so a deck that they got off the internet. And I guess as well, it's just easier, isn't it? When you make your own deck, there's a lot of trial and error sometimes involved, a lot of testing things out. But why should you build your own deck? Well, there's a few different reasons. Number one, when you get a net deck, you may be unfamiliar with it and may not know the strengths and weaknesses of the deck. If you build your own deck, you know exactly what is in it. You know exactly what the strengths and weaknesses are. You know the win condition very well. So that's that can give you a better understanding of the deck, and also allows you to modify it better. So if you need to take something out, add something in, you can do so without maybe affecting the rest of the deck because you know the idea behind it a little bit better. Secondly, winning games with a deck you built yourself is very much more satisfying than doing so with a net deck. I speak from experience. I've played a fair few net decks. I've built my own as well. And when you build something, you're like, hang on a minute, this thing might be quite good. There's a real feeling of pride and satisfaction that you just don't get from going, okay, I'll play this deck, I'll add in this is what the list tells me. Now I'll go out and play and win a load of games. As I said, don't get me wrong, you can have a lot of fun with net decks, a lot of fun. I've played a lot, but there is a real satisfaction from building your own, definitely. Another reason is that having your own deck gives you an edge. For example, if I play like a Warlock, okay, one of my favourite net decks, a lot of fun, but as soon as I start playing cards from this, my opponent will know exactly what deck this is. So as soon as I start playing, like a Kazakus, for example, he's going to know I've got Reno. As soon as I start playing some other things, Twilight Drake on like turn 4 or something, he's going to know what deck I am, and he'll be able to counter his strategy to that deck. Same with things like Dragon deck or a Murloc deck, for example. They're going to know exactly what you're doing and be able to counter that. If you build something from the ground up that is a little bit different, they can have no idea what you're trying to do, and it allows you to pull off the kind of things you might want to do, like combos or specific kind of crazy idea that you may have for something, a lot easier because the person won't have a clue what you're doing. It doesn't always work out that well, but generally it's a lot easier to do that. For example, Rogue is a deck which, especially Miracle Rogue, relies a lot on combos, and if you can kind of shut down your opponent with that, then you kind of know how to against that. Same with like pirate decks at the minute. You know, as soon as somebody plays a small time buccaneer on turn 1, you know exactly what's going to be in their deck, so you can kind of counter that. Well, sometimes you can, sometimes you just can't. But yeah, so it gives you that advantage where it's unpredictable. You know, the person doesn't know what you're doing. And lastly, when building your own deck as well, you can play to the style you want to play. So for me personally, I've always been more of a control type of player. In other words, I like to control the board. I like to have board control. In other words, my minions are bigger and better on the board. I have more of them and control it from there. So I love things like Dragon, Priest, Reno decks, Reno Lock, things like that. I do enjoy playing the odd aggressive deck as well, and combo decks and things like that. So you know, it's possible to. You know, I don't like to play just the same thing all the time, but certainly, as a preference, a control deck is my style. So you can build a deck that will suit your style ideally, rather than maybe playing like a control warrior or something when you're like, oh, I don't like this, but I'm winning games, you know, so I'm just going to keep going. It's that's not probably very much fun. So where should you start when you're building your own deck? Okay, so the first thing you got to do is have an idea, I guess. That kind of sounds a bit strange, but often when I'm building a deck, it's based around a card or something like that. Maybe it's a legendary card, something like Raza. So I'm going, oh, hang on a minute, I could get, with Raza here, if a deck has no duplicates, you'll hear about cost 0 in this game. And then I'm like, oh, so then a shadow form would be really good, right? So then I can build up from there. Maybe it's something really crazy, so maybe it's something like a kind of stealth rogue, where I'm like, oh, I could maybe you know, chuck down some shadow rages and, you know, do a 1-turn lethal or something like that, by buffing them up with like cold what's it called? Cold blood, that's the one. Do I even have that? Yeah, I do cold blood, here we go. To give me you know, like, well, it wouldn't really be like 20 damage, but you know, be fairly close to do that. So everything's got to start off with an idea of what you want to do, and maybe sometimes it's not based around one card, but maybe it's based around a theme. So for example, you might go, okay, well, I really like dragons, so what have we got that's dragon related? Oh, actually, I shouldn't put dragons, should I? I should put dragon. There we go. So I'm going, oh, okay, well, let's have a look at what dragons I've got. And obviously I don't have every card going, so I actually nearly do have every card in terms of dragons. I do love dragons. Okay, so I don't have some of these. And maybe you're going, okay, well, I really like dragons. They synergize very well with each other, so you can see the ones which are dragon here. And then some which aren't dragons, but work when you have a dragon. So you can kind of build from there and start adding these in. And go from there. You know, maybe things like a Murlocs as well. Obviously, it can be pretty strong as well on there. So, you know, it always got to start with an idea. And usually that idea is what's called a victory condition. So in other words, what you need to do to win the game against your opponent. Usually there's one of 3 ways you will do this. So the first one would be to establish and maintain board control. As I said, that's generally my favourite one. So basically use your minions to attack your opponent until you win the game, and the idea being that your minions are probably better value and stronger than your opponent's minions. And we'll talk about value and stuff like that a bit later, what that means. So that's kind of the first rough condition. The second one would be to have some sort of combination of cards to produce what's called burst. So a particular class which does that very well would be Mage and Rogue. Where's my Mage? There we go. So Mage has great things like Fireball and Frostbolt and things like that. Cheap cards which do a lot of damage and also can be used on your opponent's hero to blast them down. A deck which does that very well would be Freeze Mage, which the idea being that you kind of like draw cards, you get enough cards in your deck until you have enough damage. You make those cards cheaper using different cards, and then you can just blast away at your opponent. And it's very, very effective, to be completely honest. There's different things you need to do in there, but it works quite well. Rogue again, and things like Miracle Rogue, stuff like that can have burst damage, which does a pretty good job on there as well. So there's different things on there. The third way is what's kind of called aggro decks. These are where basically you swarm the board with small minions, and before your opponent can kind of manage to recover or eliminate all of them, you've kind of whittled them down to nothing. So Hunter and the kind of Pirate Warrior decks, things like that, do very well with this particular archetype of deck. And it's what's called kind of, the old memes you may have seen but not understood too much, like the Face Hunter, Small King, and stuff like that, where you ignore everything else on the board, you just go face, and you just try to break your opponent down. A lot of people like playing these decks because you have very quick games. You either win by about turn 7 or you concede because you're not going to win, and you hope to high heaven that your opponent doesn't have any cheap AoE spells, or else you're done for. But they are very effective when they win. They are just a blitzkrieg of demolition power, basically. They work very well. Hunter especially good at that type of thing, but as I say, the Pirate Warrior deck at the minute is the one which just really hammers people, and I will talk about that type of deck in a bit as well. So, as you say, so you kind of envision this victory condition that you have. So if I have a look at some of my decks, we'll talk about the kind of victory condition here. So I've spoken about this deck before, I really like it. It's a very cheap Tiger Rogue. So what's the condition here? Well, I kind of spoke about it a little bit before, but you have some pretty cheap cards. You can see the mana curve there. And the idea is you have to cycle through a lot of your cards to get the ones you need to combo. So the ones you kind of need to get are your Stranglethorn Tigers, things like Cold Blood, Conceal as well. You cycle through using things like Cold Light's Oracle, so it draws cards. Acolyte of Pain draws cards. Shiv as well. You want to get through those. The idea being that you have your 2 Stranglethorn Tigers down, sometimes only 1, but usually 2. You hit with your Cold Bloods. You attack your opponent for 9 each, so that's 18. Then you conceal so your opponent can't kill them. They would need AoE to kill them when they're in stealth, and generally most AoE doesn't do 5 or more. There are some which do, but not all. And then you hit them again the next turn and kill them. Sometimes you can do it 1 turn if you've managed to whittle them down a little bit. Sometimes you can use things like spell damage +1 on things like Eviscerate to do, another 5 damage or whatever and kill them. But that's the idea of the deck, is to do things like that. So it's kind of clear, it's very cheap, there's no legendaries in there, so you can kind of make all of these cards very easily, and it's actually quite a lot of fun to do. And it's kind of like a starter rogue, because it introduces you to combos and things like that without having the really complicated sometimes combos of Miracle Rogue or something like that. But I like it as a deck. So as I said, the win condition there is to kind of stealth your minions and then keep attacking, stuff like that, and hope that your opponent can't kill you before that happens. I've played it a few times, as I said, it's pretty useful. The win condition of something like a Reno lock is very, very different. So there's not that kind of burst damage. It's more of a control deck. So it is a control deck, actually. It's not more of, it is an archetypal control deck. The idea is that these cards here will control the board for you. Things like Doomsayer, destroy at the start of your turn, destroy all minions. If you're playing against an aggro deck, you drop this on turn 2, it just slows them down completely and allows you time to get your AoEs and be able to play them. Things like Acidic Swamboos, destroying your opponent's weapon, can be very powerful. Some Fury to give your minions Taunt. These cards are designed to give you extra cards as well in terms of Cabal Courier. Kazaka's obviously very, very powerful. You have the Reno for when you are nearly dead. Reno will heal you back up again. And you also have bigger removal. You have Torture Access, who is just a super fun card. And the idea is that you just, everything your opponent puts down, you control. You control the board. If it gets too big, you've got your AoEs, or your Kazaka spells, or Shadow Flame, whatever. You control the board, you whittle your opponent down until they have just run out of anything they can do, and you win, basically. It is kind of like, imagine a Rocky Balboa in the ring against Clubber Lang in Rocky 3. He lets Clubber Lang just wear himself out, trying to hit him, and Rocky just keeps there, I really love that film, by the way, in case you didn't know, but Rocky just allows him to keep hitting him until he wears him down, and then he hits him, and that's exactly what this deck does, and I kind of love that about the deck. It's a lot of fun. You can swarm your opponent as well. It's got kind of various different abilities on it, but generally it'll wear them down. You also have, I always put Elise into a deck like this as well. She's a good minion, and what Elise does is she shuffles the map to the Golden Monkey into your deck. You might be going, what the hell's the map to Golden Monkey? When you get the map, I think it's a 2 cost, it might be 1, I can't remember. You then play it, and it shuffles the Golden Monkey into your deck. The Golden Monkey, when you play it, is a 6/6 taunt. 6/6 taunt, I think, and it changes all the cards in your hand and deck to legendary minions. So, if you're left at the end of your game with a Mortal Coil, a Power Overwhelming, and some Fury Protector, they could suddenly change into a Ragnaros, a Ronin, or something like that. Something really powerful, or even a Reno. So that could be really good. Also, it adds cards to your deck, which stops you from fatiguing, because fatiguing is another win condition, although it's rarely played that much. So what fatigue is when you run out of cards, so you have 30 in a deck, what happens when you have nothing left to draw? You take damage to your hero. The first time it happens you take 1, the second time you take 2, the third time you take 3, and it carries on like that. So eventually it will kill you. If you've used all your cards up a lot quicker than your opponent has, then you will be in fatigue earlier, and the chances are you will die quicker than your opponent. The Control Warrior does this very, very well, where they build up a lot of armour, sometimes as much as like 40 armour, and they go into fatigue, and they just sit there and slowly wait for you to die. It's like the equivalent of watching someone just bleed to death, basically. But it's very effective. You just have to basically control your opponent until you get to the fatigue stage and let them die themselves. There are ways around it, and some decks go even further to do what's called milling, which is where you purposely allow your opponent to, or you make your opponent draw cards, usually using a cold light and kind of bouncing the cold light back and then playing it again, using things like Shadow Step and stuff like that, to, when you have 10 cards in your hand, if you draw a card after that, the card gets destroyed, you don't get it. So that's called milling, and it can be very, very effective, basically. So you are basically destroying your opponent's cards. If I had, say, like a Reno Lock, oh, sorry, that's my Shaman. If I had, for example, a Reno Lock, it would, and he managed to mill my Reno, and like my Kazakas, it's just completely weakened my deck, So it can be very effective. Usually you can kind of tell what your opponent's doing, and you can kind of work it out, but certainly it's happened to me a fair few times that is for sure. So yeah, as I said, the kind of the first step to building a deck yourself would be to add in the cards that you want to. Okay, phrase this: the cards that are important to the deck. So, for example, if I was like, I want to make a Reno deck, then obviously Reno's going to be in there. That's the first card you're going to put in. Then you're probably going to put in Kazakas if you have him, because he's just super powerful. If I was going for, say, a Mage, if I had it, could go for the Igmaster Solia. So, if your deck has no duplicates, the next spell you cast this turn costs 0. So, again, no duplicates can be very, very powerful. If I was going for a rogue deck and I wanted to do a lot of burst damage, I could use, it might be that my first step would be like a Stranglethorn, or maybe like Leroy Jenkins. So he's a very popular, aggressive card. Have I spelled that wrong? I don't think I have. There we go. Leroy Jenkins, the famous meme. Imagine if you are Leroy Jenkins right now. I've often wondered this. If you don't know the story behind Leroy Jenkins as a card, many years ago, there was a guy. There's a video on YouTube you can watch. Explains it way better than I do. But basically, he was a World of Warcraft player. He was in a guild or a group, and they were going to attack this boss, and they were all there trying to work out the best battle plan. And this guy just goes charging in, shouting Leroy Jenkins, and unsurprisingly, the whole rest of the group, they run in and they all die horribly, and everyone at the end is kind of berating Leroy, and he turns around and goes, "Well, at least I've got chicken." And it's just hilarious. But imagine if you are Leroy Jenkins right now. I'd love someone to fight this guy and just meet him, because he has an actual Hearthstone card named after him. As far as I'm aware, there's only 2 people who have Hearthstone cards named after them. One is Leroy Jenkins, and one is Nat Bagel. But it's actually the name of the guy is actually Pat Nagel. For some reason, they just switched the name around. Although I guess he kind of has 2 cards, doesn't he? Anyway, I digress. So, Leroy Jenkins. He is 5 cost, he gives you charge. He summons 2 1/1 whelps of your opponent. And usually what happens is, on a rogue deck, actually you'll see in the second video, I get hammered with this card, and what's called a Faceless Manipulator, which copies the card of your choice on the deck. So the guy plays Leroy. He uses Cold Blood, which gives it +4 attack, which gives it 10 attack. He then uses a Faceless Manipulator to copy it, and then he kills me with 20 damage. And there was literally nothing I could do about it, apart from have a Taunt, which I didn't have in my deck, so there was literally nothing I could do about it. And it's very effective, so that would kind of like be your first core thing to do if you were trying to build like an aggressive deck. If you were trying to go for like a pirate deck, probably the first things you put in would be the very powerful Small Time Buccaneers. Also a card as well, which is very powerful, and I actually get asked about this card a lot, is called Patches. Patches the pirate. He's a 1/1 for 1, and he has charge, and after you play a pirate, summon this minion from your deck. And people go to me, "Oh, this guy's rubbish." Okay, this guy's not rubbish. This guy is very powerful. He doesn't do a great deal of damage, but he is the #1 ranked legendary according to a recent PC Gamer ranking of legendaries. And pirate decks work so much better with him in it. So I don't have him, as you can see there. So why is Patches good for a deck like this? Okay, so pirates synergize with pirates a lot. Okay, so okay, if you control +1/+1. There are other pirate things which synergize as well on that as well. I think there's one which, let me have a look. Okay, so for example, a Sky Captain Grad costs 1 less for each friendly pirate. We got anything else? Okay, but the idea of this deck is that you swarm the board with minions and have strong weapons. Okay, so for example, turn 1, you here could play a Inzoth's First Mate, a Small Time Buccaneer. You probably wouldn't play the South Sea deckhand. Okay, but chances are you can have 1 drop. When you play him, Patches comes flying in as well, and you play. Now, on turn 2, which your opponent would be on, the chances are he wouldn't have played anything turn 1. If you're not playing against another aggressive deck, you could be, in which case it's fine anyway. But if you're not, then if you can imagine, your opponent would have 2 mana, and he'd have 2 things to deal with here. Now they might be very low health, but he has 2 things to deal with, which can be a problem. Also, he might play something which has got, for example, 2 health. As usually a turn 2 minion would have 2 health, sometimes 3, but usually 2. If you have Untitled First Mate, you can equip that 1/3 Rusty Hook, attack him, and then use Patches to slam into him. You've already done 1 damage to the face with Patches anyway. And you might turn and go, well, 1 damage doesn't matter too much. It matters, trust me. In aggro deck, 1 damage. Many, many times I have come back from 1 damage and gone on to win a game against an aggro deck. So it all counts. So Patches is a very, very good card generally. Cards which are low cost are really good minions. So Patches obviously 1. Shifter's Eris doesn't really count because he transforms into different things. But we have Blood Mage Thalnos, which is a real a card which a lot of people play in decks. Again, I don't have him. Gives you spell damage +1. His death rattles draw a card. So it's basically like giving your spells an extra boost that turn, plus you draw a card. Pretty good. And while Lord Cho, I'd love to get Lord Walker Cho. He's awesome. He's so annoying to play against. But while they're kind of like high-end legendaries, get all the glamour, you know, the Ragnarosses, the Alexstrasses, the Archthief Rafan, they're the glory ones. It's actually the lower end ones which you're going to play. Like, if you're playing a pirate deck and you have Patches, you're going to play Patches every single game, guaranteed. Guaranteed. If you have Ragnaros, excuse me, my phone going off there. If you have Ragnaros, okay, there's no guarantee that you're going to even get to play Ragnaros. He might win you some games, he might just get destroyed straight away. So, yeah, you have to kind of base it. You know, many times I've won games using a Sarah or Ragnaros, but I guarantee you, like, Patches is just such a solid, strong card that, it's extremely powerful in a pirate deck. Don't get me wrong, you can't really use him in anything else. But, like, if you're playing, pirate, then he is really, really good. So anyway, as I said, that's kind of about choosing what you're going to do to begin with your deck, and then adding. So let's actually talk about each of the classes as well, what they do. So these are the 9 classes within Hearthstone. You have Warrior. His hero power is gain 2 armor. So Warrior generally looks to be more controlling and build up his armor. Armor goes above your health, so even if you're at 30 health, you gain armor above. Control Warrior, very powerful. But we're seeing a lot of Pirate Warrior, and generally Pirate Warrior will use a card called Sir Finley Murgleton, which changes your hero power to something else, and then they will choose to change it to a hunter, druid, rogue, something like that. Even mage as well. So that's very powerful. So at the minute, Warrior is very good for controlling and also for aggressive pirate decks. Shaman hereabout is summon a random totem. There's 4 different totems. One is a 0/2 which heals, one's a 0/2 with taunt, one is a 1/1, just a minion, and the other one is a 0/2 with spell damage. Shaman used to be exceptionally powerful. I used to just see people play Shaman. The mid-range Shaman is still a very powerful deck, but people have kind of, I think, got a little bit bored with it right now. Shaman's very good at controlling, also good at being aggressive as well. So has a lot of AoE spells, a lot of powerful damage from that. Has a mechanic called Overload, which will cause you to lose mana temporarily on your next turn, but allow you to play very powerful cards on the turn for low mana costs before that. So it's kind of swings and roundabouts with that. But I used to play a lot of Shaman. I went off it a bit because everybody was playing the mid-range Shaman, but there you go. Next up we have Rogue. Rogue, very good at combos. So Rogue is a very heavy combo based deck. What combos are is a card will activate a better version of itself if you play a card before that. For example, if we go to Rogue, we need to go like that. So Cold Blood here. Ordinarily it gives a minion +2 attack if you combo, so if you play a bonus if you've already played a card this turn, it gives something 4 attack. Very, very powerful for 2 mana. Same with Eviscerate, 4 damage you could do with a combo version for just 2 mana. So it does very well on that. It does pretty well on Pirates as well at the minute, so there's always that option. And a Jade version as well with the Jade columns is pretty powerful as well. So there's options with Rogue at the minute. I quite like Rogue. I'm not very good with it, but but I do my best. And it's got some cool cards anyway. Death Rattle Rogues are pretty good as well. A Deb archetype is called a Miracle Rogue. The Miracle Rogue works on the basis of a lot of rogue spells are very low cost, as you can see here, even a lot which are 0. And you get a neutral card called the where is he? He's the can't find him now. I thought he was 4 cost. Is he not 4 cost? I don't think he's 4 cost. It's 6 cost. Sorry, he's at 4/4. That's what confused me. The catchers and auction it with if you cast a spell, draw a card. So using Rogue, you can basically, even with 0 cost cards, you can just cycle through your deck very, very quickly and get those combo cards you need. Also, Rogue has a minion called Edwin Van Cleefeezer. I might be spelling that wrong actually, or I might just need to hit my. There we go. Edwin Van Cleefeezer legendary. So combo gain +2/+2 for each card played earlier this turn. Usually what Rogue will do is build this up to be really big, like over +10/+10 or whatever, and then conceal it, so in other words stealth it, and then kill you the turn after, and there's nothing you can do about it. Well, usually nothing. So that works very well. Also, there's been some kind of deck archetypes with Rogue which have dealt with stealing other cards from your opponent and playing those, which is pretty good fun. They do that, so it kind of works on the theme of Rogue being a thief, I guess. Oh god, where am I going? As well, which is good. Next up we have Paladin. Paladin has the sorry, I didn't mention the Rogue. Hereabout equip a 1 damage 2 duration dagger, so you get to use it twice, and it does 1 damage each time, which can be very powerful with certain cards as well. Paladin has a summon a 1/1 Silverhand recruit. Paladin can often be more suited towards a control type deck. At the minute, a lot of people are playing around with the buff Paladin. What that means is it's got a lot of cards which will give your minions in your hand like extra health and extra damage. For example, have I got a deck which does that? Not at the minute. But if I was to choose a Paladin, give all your minions in your hand +1/+1. Give all your minions in your hand +1/+1. So in other words, it's about building up your hand and then buffing them up and then getting more value than your opponent has. In that, which we'll talk about value in a bit. So that's pretty good. Also Murlocs as well with Paladin have kind of synergised quite well. I love Murlocs. I've got a video, you can just search for it if you want to watch a Murloc deck called Murlocalypse. I've got other Murloc decks as well. The Anyfin Murloc is very good as well. Again, you can look up these decks, they're good. But I also like a Dragon Paladin as well. So basing around Dragon synergy and using Paladin cards works pretty well. I used to play one quite a bit. I don't think I've still got it though, unfortunately. But I may well build another one similar to that. Next up is Hunter. Hunter is the classic archetypal aggro deck. You do get some mid-range hunters which can be fairly powerful, but probably 9 times out of 10 it's going to be aggressive. Its hero power does 2 damage to the enemy hero. Doesn't matter if they have taunt or anything, just hits it. And usually Hunter is all about the beasts, so there's a lot of beast synergy within Hunter. So you see here, give a random beast in your hand +1/+1. Or a lot of these are beast cards and have things which work with beasts. Give a friendly beast +2/+2 and taunt. Stuff like that works very well. So Hunter's usually all about the beasts. And it's all about aggressive, so chucking things onto the board and then hammering your opponent basically. Seems to work very well. Can be quite good fun. It's pretty easy to play. So you know, if you are very, very new, it can be quite easy to play as well. Doesn't have to rely on too much combos and things like that. But that's generally what Hunter does. Next up we have Druid. The Druid hero power. +1 attack this turn, +1 armor. And the Druid will generally be kind of maybe, there's a few different archetypes actually, which can be good fun. We have the Lotus Golems. A Cthulhu deck works well as well, which is based around Cthulhu, a card who deals damage equal to this minion's attack, randomly split among all enemies. So other cards basically buff Cthulhu, and he gets really big, and you do like a one-turn kill almost with him. You have the Golem decks. You also have Beast Druid decks as well. You get things like these. These cards transform into beasts. So Druid of the Saber, Adult Grizzly, Druid of the Flame transforms into a beast, Mounted Raptor, stuff like that. So there's synergies there with beast stuff as well. Also, to be honest, Druid is probably the most versatile, of the classes. You also get ones which do crazy things with, where is it? I don't have it. I don't think Astral Communication, sorry, not communication. So you play this on turn 4. You gain 10 mana crystals, but you discard your whole hand, and you might be thinking, like, why the hell would you want to do that? So if on turn 5 you have 10 mana and your opponent only has 5, and you start playing big minions, they're going to really struggle. So there are some fun decks out there which do things with that as well in Druid. Yes, get rid of that. There was nothing in it. So yeah, Druid can be pretty powerful. Like that, his hero power does gives you 1 armor and gives you 1 attack that turn, which is okay. It's not a weapon; it's just 1 attack. So yeah, Druid's very, very versatile. Next up, we have one of my favourite classes, Warlock. Warlock's hero power is called Life Tap. Draw a card and take 2 damage. You might be thinking, like, that doesn't sound very good, you're dealing damage to yourself. Well, it's actually exceptionally powerful. A lot of the time in games, you win by having more also like about Warlock is they have a lot of demon synergy. So a lot of their cards are demons, their class cards that is. There are also neutrals which are demons as well. And they synergize with each other and are often really fun cards. A lot of the time they'll do bad things but be very powerful. So for example, Wrathguard, 2 cost 4/3, very very powerful 2 cost card, but whenever it takes damage, also deal that amount to your hero. So if someone polymorphs this guy for 10, your hero gets hit for 10 as well. So you can actually kind of one-turn kill your hero just by having a Wrathguard out. So it can be terrible. Sometimes they'll discard cards as well. So a 2 cost 4/3 again, very powerful, but the Succubus will discard a random card, which can be bad because you just lose that card. But then you can mitigate that with a Malcazazim. So whenever you discard a card, draw a card. So you have him down and play Succubus on turn 2. You're cycling through your deck, but you're not losing that much, if that makes sense. You've still got the cards in your hand, and you would be building a very aggressive deck anyway, where you wouldn't be even going anywhere near your 30 cards, or else you've already lost. Also, Warlock has a lot of AoE effect cards as well, which I like. And the Reno Lock is a very, very powerful deck. I showed you that one earlier. Here we go. Very, very powerful deck. Works on the basis that I can't have any duplicates within the deck. But him and Kazakus, it's just a lot of fun. A lot of demons in there as well, which I like. I like my demons. And it's good. And it kind of bases the fact upon having a lot of cards in your hand at one time. So when you have a Twilight Drake, for example, gain +1 health for each card in your hand, he could become a 4/9 potentially. Things like a Mountain Giant, you could potentially be playing them on turn 4 or 5 if you haven't played any cards, which could be really powerful. Chucking this out on like turn 5 is pretty strong, as you can imagine. So that's kind of, oh god, done it again. That's kind of what Warlock does. Also, Zoolock is a very powerful, aggressive Warlock deck. Uses a lot of like 1 and 2 cost minions to just blitz your opponent. I haven't seen too much of that recently, but I know it's a very strong archetype of Warlock as well. And again, the card draw just helps with that because it allows you to just keep, well not keep, but each turn you can get an extra card. So it's like drawing 2 cards a turn rather than 1, which is a very powerful mechanic. Mage. Mage is all about the spells, basically. I continue to build this deck. Oh, missing Ink Master, yeah. I really, really want to get Ink Master, but I need to save up my dust. Mage, it just has spells galore, does damage to specific things, does AoE damage, freezes things, does all sorts, and it's a pretty good and fun deck to play a lot of the time. Very much favours the kind of control type of deck. So in other words, your opponent plays something, you destroy it immediately. Your opponent plays something else, you destroy it immediately, and until you get to a point whereby you then can destroy your opponent. They've run out of stuff basically. Reno Mages as well, pretty good. I'm going to play some games with this one. Missing some cards, obviously Ink Master, Solia, which, for those who don't know what Ink Master Solia does, she, I assume it's the lady, shouldn't it be Ink Mistress Solia? That's weird, I don't know. I always assumed it's the lady here, not the orc, because she's the one doing the tattooing. I don't know, anyway. Yeah, if your deck has no duplicates, the next spell you cast this turn costs 0. So effectively you could drop this down a 5/5 card. 7's a lot, but if you're then playing a Firelands Portal as well, it becomes, the value there is increased a lot. So, yeah, pretty good. And yeah, so Mage is all about kind of controlling your opponent. The hero power of Mage, Fire Blast, deal 1 damage, and it works like a spell, so you can hit anything on the board, including your opponent, which could be quite useful again for controlling things on there. You also have Mage cards which buff that hero power as well, which can be very powerful in there. Next up, another of my favourites, which is Priest. Priest, restore 2 health. Priest is very much about control and also a lot about dragons, which is a lot of fun. Let me find my dragon kind of Priest. This is like my Dragon Reno type deck. It's a lot of fun to play. I love playing dragons. They synergize with each other, so well, and non-dragon cards. But so for example, Never Spite. If you're holding a dragon, discover a dragon. That means you get 3 random dragons come up, and you choose one of them in your deck, which can be very powerful. It's a battle cry, so combine it with something like Brand, where your battle cries trigger twice, and you can get 2 cards, 2 dragons. Well, considering a lot of cards you play synergize with dragons, that's very, very powerful. Yeah, Priest, very much about control. You don't see a lot else from Priest, to be completely honest. There are some kind of very fun decks out there which kind of play around with certain Priest cards, such as Inner Fire, change a minion's stat to be equal to its health, and Divine Spirit. So you can get like a really, really big minion quite cheap. But it doesn't always work that well, to be honest with you. You do see it get played a fair amount, but not that much. So that's the 9 classes. So you kind of pick one which you like, or which you've got good cards with. Perhaps you got the Welcome Back and you got a specific class legendary, and then you can kind of build from that with it. So you have 2 different types of cards: class and neutral. Class can only be played with that specific class, so Paladin cards, you can see they're outlined with this yellow, can only be played with Paladin, and neutrals can be played with any deck. So then you just kind of pick through, and an important thing to remember is something called mana curve. So let's have a look at the mana curve for this. Very much towards the 1, it's an aggressive deck. You see here, so I can't actually mouse over to show you, but you can see it goes 0 to 7+, and you can see the 1 column I've got 8 1-cost cards, 7 2-cost, so on, so on. Okay. The Reno will have a much broader kind of build up, and then a little bit more on the later game, because it's more about control. Same probably with the Dragon as well, so it's kind of like a little bit kind of mid to late range kind of deck as well. So it's important to know what you're doing, to kind of consult your kind of mana curve, because you want to have that. I guess you want to have that reflecting what you're trying to do with the deck, if that makes sense. And then I guess once you're kind of get round to building that deck up, last few things in there, you can add in what are called tech cards. Tech cards are specific cards designed to do something against a lot of decks being played. At the minute you've got a lot of pirate decks, so you might want to tech in a acidic swan boost, which destroys your opponent's weapon. Very powerful against pirate, it can really shut them down. So that's what's called tech. Other tech cards can be things like a big game hunter. Used to be a lot more powerful, then it got nerfed a bit. Used to cost 4, I think. Destroy a minion with 7 or more attacks, so your opponent kind of builds something big, you can drop this down, kill it straight out, things like that. So they're cards which specifically are designed to stop decks which other people are playing a lot of, and so it can be pretty powerful. Usually, more often than not, there'll be a legendary, but not that often. Owl Beak would be another one. Silencing a minion can be very powerful. Again, this got nerfed as well. It used to cost 2, now it costs 3. And then once you've built your deck, it is time to play it. So you play your deck, and then you'll see what cards work, see which cards don't, and then you can kind of switch around and mess around with it and do things like that. And you really do have to play quite a few games with the deck to get a good hand. Don't just play 3 games and be like, oh, this deck's done, or is this deck's rubbish, Do play around with things, because the chances are if you play 3, for example, aggro pirate decks and lose, you could then play 3 games where you don't play the aggro pirate and you win against all of them. So you can kind of adjust things to tech against a aggro pirate deck. So in other words, add in a couple of cards which do well against that, and then maybe even things out a little bit so you can go just above 50%. And remember, even the best decks rarely have higher than a 60% win rate, so you're going to lose games no matter what you do. There's no easy way to just win 100% of the time. It's not possible. There's too much randomness involved. So yeah, that's kind of like a bit more in depth on deck building and about cards as well in general. I want to finally just talk about value. So value, this kind of goes back to the patches kind of conversation about is this card good or not, and value can be very important within a deck. If you're playing an aggressive deck, it generally isn't that important. Usually playing things to just attack the opponent's face, but when you're playing a longer game, value is very important. What do you mean by value? So in other words, a card's mana cost does not necessarily dictate how powerful the card is. For example, Kazakus can win you the game. He only costs 4 mana though, because he creates spells which are very powerful. You could double how powerful Kazakus is by using Brown with him. So, for example, if I hit on turn 4 Kazakus and say I was fairly comfortable in the game, I might decide to hold on and wait until maybe I draw Bran, and then on turn 7 I could get 2 Kazakus spells. Now you might say that's greedy, but depending on the situation you're in is how valuable Kazakus is. The other side of things is that, say for example, something happened where I had an extra card chucked in my deck or something, and Kazakus wouldn't work. Would I wait to draw that card, or would I play Kazakus? And his value proposition changes to that certain situation. So if I had to get a minion down on the board just to try to maybe absorb some damage or take out something my opponent has, then he's valuable in that respect without the battle cry. Bookworm's a good example of that. So if you're holding a dragon, destroy an enemy minion with 3 or less attack, obviously that battle cry is very powerful, but it requires 2 things. 1, that you have a dragon, and 2, that your opponent has a minion with 3 or less attack. Now, a 3/6 for 6 just played on its own is fairly weak, but it's not the end of the world. So you could just play this without that. But generally, a lot of the time, the way you will win a game is by activating the battle cry, death rattle, or whatever that your minion has, and sometimes even using measures to make sure that you can do it twice. So value also has an important thing, but value doesn't just mean about this. So as I say, with like a patches, his value of being on the board early is very, very powerful on there. So it kind of varies around a little bit, and it's something you learn as you go through on there. Now, a couple of starter decks I have. As I said, this Tiger Rogue, I'll probably play some games with this and record it to show you guys, but that's the Tiger Rogue there. You can play around with that if you wish. And then we have a couple of kind of a pirate warrior. Again, no legendaries in this, and they're pretty cheap, so you should be able to make them fairly, soon into your Hearthstone career. That's a very aggressive warrior deck, using kind of pirate synergies and just hammering your opponent down. And then, oh no, that's not the one. That's an expensive deck. And then a hunter deck, which uses a lot of beast synergy, and again, very aggressive, hunting your opponent down. No, quite a lot of common cards here. In fact, we've got anything above a common. No, so that's an exceptionally cheap deck, which will work pretty well in the lower ranks. When I say lower, I mean the higher ranks. It's kind of a weird way to do it, I guess, but yeah. So in the 20s, that would probably work fairly well. And I'll play some games with these as well, and you can kind of see how they go in another video though, because this one's probably gone on forever now. But there's nothing even above common there, so very, very cheap to do. A lot of starter cards as well. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, feel free to leave a comment. I'm happy to answer everything. Again, I'm not an expert in Hearthstone, so if you disagree with something I've said, then please leave a comment, and I'm happy to put my point across of why I think something, and maybe you'll even convince me otherwise. But till then, guys, thank you so much for watching again. As I said, there'll be another Hearthstone video just a bit later, and I'll catch you guys next time.